Jerome Powell does a 0.25 rate cut, and he signals that he may be halting rates. I think through the Trump era, he's going to end the Fed. Think about this for just a moment. Since 1913, the US dollar's collapsed 96 to 97%. Trump in 2017 said he's worried about the debasement of the US dollar, the inflationary US dollar, and he said we're going to be on an even playing field monetarily before we know it. Then he didn't win in 2020. He has 4 years. He comes back and builds a cabinet of people who are deeply ingrained in the new financial system. There's a government shutdown for 40 days. A bunch of bankers went to Mar-a-Lago. Kind of interesting, right? And then Jerome Powell announces yesterday, which we're going to talk about in this video. And I'm going to share with you every single video on how I'm preparing my family for the transition from 2025 to 2030, as I did from 2020 to 2025. And I'm going to show you how one of the oldest banks is all going into crypto. Okay, this is very, very important to understand. I got a couple more days in this makeshift studio here, and I'll be traveling back, and I'll be back in my studio. So thank you for bearing with me with the not the greatest lighting and audio. So well, let's dive right in, guys. So summary of the Fed decision. This was 12/10/2025. This is the Colbesi letter. So the Fed's cut rate by 0.25 basis points, the third rate cut in 2025. The Feds will consider extending timing of additional adjustments, and the Fed will begin purchasing U.S. Treasury bills on December 12th. So they stopped quantitative tightening on December 1st, and now they're going to start the printing machine. They're going to start buying debt again. Okay, so that's going to lower the value of the dollar. Okay, so and then they say, he said right here, he said the Fed's rates signals rate cuts may be done for now. Okay, so rate cuts may be done. You got printing of money. Right? We're like in this weird standstill. Now, there's only one of two things they can do, guys. They lower rates and they print like crazy, which devalues the shit out of your currency. Or he keeps holding on to these rates and the American public falls off a cliff because Americans are buried in debt and there's no real money in the system, guys. My income is your debt and your income is my debt. So the only way to get out of this is to either let everybody default on their debt and the whole thing implodes, or they have to lower interest rate and let people refinance their debt and keep the debt machine going. So that's your hint, your very, very powerful hint on where you should be positioning yourself as we transition through this next economy. And I think the market cycles are going to be all out of whack. I do believe 2026 is going to be very, very bullish. And here's why I believe that is when Trump brings in a new Fed chair, that Fed chair is going to lower rates, okay, in a dollar that is devaluing. Okay, you have an inflationary US dollar that is devaluing. They created stablecoin regulation, the Genius Act. They're sucking up all the debt up into stablecoins. They're going to put Bitcoin on the balance sheet. They have Bitcoin on the balance sheet, and they are going to grow their way out of this economy, right? So as they devalue the dollar, okay, and it becomes a different modality. This is the way I look at it. What he meant by we're going to be on an even playing field monetarily before we know it is, think about it. World Liberty Financial. There's no borders. You can be in South Africa, you can be in Japan, you can be in China. You can use World Liberty Financial wherever you're at. We can transfer USD1 stablecoin, RLUSD, USDC. We can transfer that outside of the centralized system. So what I think is happening, Trump is building an even playing field monetarily. Everybody gets to participate. And here's what I think is going to happen. Is that eventually the US dollar will lose its dominance as the dominant currency. We won't be not the dominant country, but the dominant currency, because we all have choices. Everybody can use a stable coin. There'll be an even playing field, and it'll be who's the best at doing what they do, right? Putting tariffs on other countries, bringing the jobs back into America. You're going to see a boom in the economy. You're going to see a huge boom in the economy, but you have to position yourself when this transitions. And so that's what I'm going to be doing. So from 2026 to 2030, I'm going to be paying attention to inflation, because if they do lower interest rates like crazy and they print a ton of money, which devalues your currency, what happens is things become very expensive. It's not that your dollar is becoming worth less. It's not that things are getting more expensive, that the devaluation of your dollar. So if you're sitting on the wrong side of this token, no pun intended, in 2030, you're going to be caught in a market collapse. Right. So I'm positioning myself in things that I believe, even if there is a market collapse, are going to be here for the next 10 to 15 to 20 years. Okay. But here's a great hint right here. Cointelegraph posted this. It says Vanguard, okay, Vanguard, massive. This is crazy. It reversed its anti-crypto stance, granting 50 million clients access to spot crypto ETFs, Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, and Solana. And what I want you to sit and look at here is say, does this mark full institutional adoption? It's here, family. It is not a game anymore. It is not a fad anymore. It is not the wild, wild west anymore. Cryptocurrency is here to stay. Now, what we have to stomach is the volatility, right? We're going to go through some volatile times. It's going to be up. It's going to be down 10, 10, 20, 25. That wasn't the last black swan. It's going to be all about banks coming in to provide institutional grade custody. By end of 2026, banks are going to have full clarity, okay, on operating in crypto. They're all going to start coming into cryptocurrency. They're all going to start offering their clients, institutional clients, or clients, retail clients, access through ETFs to get exposure on the balance sheet. Because think about this. You'd want to go to Mrs. Jones and Bank of America now that they allocate 1 to 4% in her portfolio. Because if you're sitting on Bitcoin that's going to grow about 50% every single year, you want that in her portfolio because they get paid under assets under management. So you'd want as much digital assets as possible that have this exponential growth over the next 10 to 15 years so that your assets under management, because that's how they get paid, grow, right? And so it's just that we're heading into a new economy. So this is how I prepared myself, okay? Very, very important. Cash flow into appreciating assets, okay? Into protection, then leverage, okay? And then I de-risk, okay? I create cash flow through businesses and cash generating dividends. I take the cash flow from the dividends in the businesses. I put them into assets that have fixed supply. You can pick whatever you want that you think will be here in some type of market collapse or has a fixed supply. Think about that. Why do I pick fixed supply assets? They are deflationary compared to the US dollar, which is inflationary. For example, Bitcoin, 21 million. No more will ever be created. 5% of the supply is left. It's one of the most scarce assets in the world. XRP, 100 billion, but based on its utility, it's deflationary. It burns every single time a transaction goes across it. So those are my two biggest holdings, holding deflationary assets that have fixed supply that grow over time, one based on its utility and one based on its scarcity. So while that's where I store, you could use gold, you can use silver, you can do real estate, whatever you are into. For me, I got into real estate for tax reasons. I just kind of started that journey more, the like short term things like that, with the big better bill. But real estate right now, I mean, think about it. You get what, 7 to 8% per year. You're not even beating inflation. Okay. So that's my key target right there. Beat inflation, because you think your assets are growing. Your 401k is growing, but you're not even beating inflation. Okay. So I do cash flow, okay, into assets that have fixed supplies. When those fixed supply assets appreciate, I pull some profits and I put it into protection. Protection gives us permanent life insurance. Okay. It gives us a family bank. We have access to the cash value. Okay. And then also we have permanent life insurance. I think I said that already. And then we can use leverage, which is L, where I can use leverage at low interest. Okay. To do what? To buy more cash flow, to buy more assets. And then we repeat the process and we de-risk. My capital DR strategy is not asset specific. It's basically macro and micro and macroeconomic specific. It can survive any collapse. It can survive inflation, deflation. It's setting things up and moving through the system. You plug in whatever asset is going to get us through the inflationary environment, and you pull profits and you put it into things that have been here since the Roman days. The first annuity was in the Roman days, which is insurance. Okay, first annuity. Think about that. So we bring it down to the bottom of the risk pyramid. When there's market collapse, our principal is guaranteed. We use leverage when everybody's running. We buy assets and we repeat the process. So I hope that helps, guys. Appreciate you very much. Again, I'll be in my new studio. I know the lighting and audio is kind of messed up here. The Freedom Conference VIP did sell out. We still have general mission tickets left. That will be selling out in the next couple of weeks. So down below in the YouTube video here, you can sign up for the Freedom Conference. You can also this year, you can watch it online for only $199. You can learn our capital DR strategy. It's absolutely amazing. So you can watch it from anywhere, any country, all of the United States. For $199, you can watch the Freedom Conference. That's down below in the description of my video or my social media platform. We love you guys. We appreciate you. As we always say, Warriors, let's get your shit together.